Hey, what's up, OCNers? Today we're going to take a look at the PureBase 500 DX from Be Quiet, which admittedly is very similar to the PureBase 500 I built in a while back, but the 500 DX mixes things up with some mesh and some aRGB accents. So when I built in the original 500, I noticed a few things that could have been improved. First thing was the thumb screws on the tempered glass side panel. Other companies are really stepping up in this department. While it seems that this implementation is still capable of doing the job of holding the tempered glass in place, another issue I really had was that there just really isn't enough room in the top of the case to plug in any CPU cables, especially when things are pretty cramped up there with fans and radiators. Another thing that was omitted from the 500 as well as the 500DX is the inclusion of a vertical GPU mount. This seems to be the feature that's included about 50% of the time, but I would still like to have seen one, since the PCIe brackets would have to be cut out if a third-party vertical GPU bracket is to be installed. So what do I talk about that I haven't already talked about already with the original PureBase 500? Well, the obvious change here is the front panels. Gone is the mostly closed off front panel in lieu of the mesh with two strips of aRGB running down the center. This change results in a very breathable front air intake. Speaking of which, a single 140mm Pure Wings 2 fan is installed. However, adding a second one would most likely aid in better temperatures. The aRGB strips in the front add something simple to the overall appearance. Up top, gone is the other panel used if airflow was not wanted. Now only a single mesh dust filter is in place. Moving inside, more of the same from the PureBase 500 is transferred over, which realistically didn't need to change anyway. The fans included in the PureBase 500 DX are all PureWings 2 140mm fans, one for the front intake, one for the back exhaust, with the last one in the roof, also set as exhaust. I will reiterate that the inside is identical to the PureBase 500, so water cooling options remain the same. Having built in the PureBase 500 before, the building experience was really familiar. Rightfully so, it's pretty much more of the same. So I swapped hardware from my Fractal Define 7 to the PureBase 500 DX. While a smaller case, it actually is quite roomy, except for the top, which, like its predecessor, is quite cramped in the CPU plug area, but I managed. Stuffing fairly powerful hardware in the 500DX is the X570 Aorus Master coupled with an AMD Ryzen 9 3900X on the Auto OC setting from within Ryzen Master. Cooling the 105 watt 12 core 24 thread 3900X is another Be Quiet product. The PureRock 2 Black, which IMO fits the blackout theme beautifully. This was debuted at CES 2020. Moving over to the memory, a 2x8GB kit of HyperX's Fury RGB clocked at 3733, again with a blacked out heat spreader. The GPU, which does have black accents, is the RTX 2080 FE model. Providing power, again, is another Be Quiet product. The 650 watt platinum rated straight power 11 PSU. Storage is covered by Samsung with a 500GB 970 EVO Plus for the OS, as well as a 512GB 950 Pro for a scratch drive. All right, let's check out those system temps, shall we? On idle, the system is really quiet, actually too quiet. Not to pun with the Be Quiet brand here, but seriously, it's stupid quiet. To be completely honest, I thought temps were going to be out of control, but I was wrong. I'm seriously impressed here with the 500DX as well as the PureRock 2 CPU cooler from Be Quiet. Idle temps set in the mid 30s. While load temps only hit in the low 80s, hitting the PureRock 2 pretty hard. The 12 cores on the 3900X pumped out about 135 watts under a 100% load with 8 to 64, while maintaining around a 4 GHz clock speed. Not too shabby for an air cooler. The RTX 2080 Super sat comfortably at 32 degrees Celsius, pretty much not affected by the fully loaded 3900X. In CSGO, the 3900X sat at a chilly 45 degrees Celsius, while the RTX 2080 Super was only hitting 50°C. Now let's crank up those visual effects. Doom Eternal, The Ancient Gods, Part 1. The 3900X did heat up a little bit more, up to 55°C, while the RTX 2080 Super, since this is more of a graphically intensive title, got up to 73 degrees C. The included 140mm PureWings 2 fans spun at around 600 RPM for the majority of the load run, while the 120mm PureWings 2 fan, being PWM, spun at about 1000 RPMs and then ramped up to 1500 RPM when a load was put on. Want to know what's even more impressive? Load noise was only 31 dBA.
Holy crap.
Alright, to wrap things up, the Be Quiet PureBase 500 DX is a win in my book. Not only has Be Quiet improved the design, but has increased the price by only 15 bucks. My only wish, and I do realize this is Be Quiet's first foray into aRGB with cases, but I do think that a version without aRGB and with a mesh front panel would appeal to some. The PureRock 2 also impressed me with its ability to keep the Ryzen 9 3900X at bay while being amazingly quiet. Okay guys, thanks for tuning in. Links for everything in today's video will be in the description below. Also, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe buttons. It helps more than you think. Blue Devil, out.